Good. Good evening, all. Welcome to the May 6th edition of the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, and Cemetery Commissioners meeting. Will you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Acceptance of minutes of the April 22nd, 2009 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of April 22nd, 2019 as written.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. That's unanimous. Next up is the executive session minutes of April 22nd, 2019.
Question?
Yes.
Greg, is there any problem in approving these and releasing them?
Approved, but do not release.
Okay. So that's my motion.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up is appointments. Veteran Service Officer Stephen Rogerson, term to expire April 30th, 2020.
We had a meeting scheduled tonight.
Mr. Valiakonis?
I
Stephen
would,
here?
I don't have an issue. His appointment is up. I've indicated to the board we are having some discussions concerning regionalization, and if that's the case, then his term would cease. So I would suggest that he be appointed until 4/30/2020 unless the town decides to create a Veterans District.
So moved with that.
We have a motion?
Say that again? You want them appointed through
4/30
4/30/2020.
unless the town creates a Veterans District.
So, Mr. Valiakonis, if the town was to create a Veterans District, that appointment would cease at that time?
That's correct. It would cease.
Regardless of what we say today for a date?
That's correct.
Okay.
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move,
I just moved, Paul.
oh, you did? Well, you know what? I didn't hear it, John.
I'll do it again.
Would you?
Yep, I move that we appoint Steve Rogerson, the Veteran Services Officer, the term to expire April 30th, 2020, or until we enter into a intermunicipal agreement with, to regionalize the position.
Okay, second.
First and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I just didn't get the tail end of it, John.
All right, no problem.
Next up, Economic Development Committee. We're looking to rescind the vote taken April 22nd, 2018, to appoint Monique Galimo.
She doesn't wish
Is
to
John
serve.
here?
Is John here?
No.
She conveyed to this office that due to a mix-up, she doesn't wish to serve, and we apologize for putting it on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we rescind the vote we took on April 22nd, 2018, should be 19, excuse me,
Is it 19?
to appoint
Yes.
Monique Galimo to the Economic Development Committee.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion?
Only that I asked that the agenda be changed to reflect 2019.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, public comment, citizen comments, informational. Is there anyone here that wishes to be heard for an item that is not on the agenda this evening? No. Town Administrator's report. Mr. Valiakonis?
I have a lot to say, but most of it will be relative to item number 8 on the agenda. So I would just simply say thank you very much for an opportunity to serve. This is my last meeting in room 321A, and it's been an enjoyable 5 years for me. So I appreciate your time, your efforts, but most of all, I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Wait a minute. I thought you weren't leaving till the 31st.
Correct. And the meeting in 2 weeks is at the high school. So I won't get to say this on TV.
But you're going to stick around till the 31st.
My last day in the office will be the 29th, so don't look
I
for me on
know.
the 31st.
I don't.
We just might look for you on the 31st.
Yeah, you might, but you won't find me. As the expression goes, I'll be long gone and hard to find. But I do say in all seriousness, thank you. Thank you to the citizens of the town. It's been an enjoyable 5 years for me. And that's it. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure we all have a lot to say about that, but we're not ready to get mushy yet.
Sounds good.
Right? Yes.
Okay. After that, we have Around Town. We don't have anything listed for that. Nothing listed for licenses and permits. The public hearing is not until 7. It's 6:45.
Would ask then that we take the public business out of order, Mr. Chairman.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. First on public business, Webster Dudley Veterans Memorial Day schedule. Is there anyone here to speak on that? Mr. Valiakonis, do you have anything on the schedule?
Yeah, there's a detailed agenda that's been put in your packet. Pretty similar to what's been done in the past, that it is a two-town event involving Webster and Dudley. It does begin at Corbin Cemetery at 9 a.m. Excuse me, my apologies. It begins at Corbin Cemetery at 7:25 a.m. I don't know where I was going. And it'll be Monday, May 27th, and you'll see the detailed schedule on page 3, ending with ceremony at the Webster Town Hall at 12 noon.
Excellent. Any comments or discussion on this,
I
gentlemen?
just want to ask
Mr.
the
Joseph?
town administrator if, are we going to see you at 7:20 a.m.?
Oh, that depends.
Okay.
It depends if my foot is allowing me to walk, but possibly. You never know. I'm still waiting for that 1 year that I get to march in brilliant sunshine. It hasn't happened yet.
Rains a lot.
We'll put our order in.
That'd be nice.
Anything else on this item, gentlemen?
No, just that we note in the record that we accept it into the record.
I don't know if the selectmen are listed as speakers, or there is a selectman listed as a speaker.
I don't think they've done that in a few years.
Nope.
No.
See Dean's name in here, though.
Is he speaking?
Dean and Steve. Dudley Town Common. Wreath Placers. Dean Kochanowski. Police Stephen Wiener. Selectmen and Representative Peter Durant. Okay,
Very good.
thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the Rail Trail Bridges Spanning Quinnebog River Informational, Ken Bakevich. Hope I said his last name right. Excellent.
Hey, Ken. Ken?
Hi, Ken.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Pardon me?
Welcome back.
Oh, I haven't been here for a while.
I know.
I try to stay out of trouble. It's just a correction, it's not the Quinnebog, it's the French River. We currently purchased the material,
Oh, okay.
and in coordination with the Dudley Highway Department, we'll be proceeding to do converting the rail bridge to a pedestrian walking bridge. And that, we're trying to, this year, accomplish 2 bridges. The first one is the French River Bridge, which is 105 feet long. It'll be a wood timber bridge. And let's,
Excuse me, Ken, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Ken, did you say this will be done in conjunction with or with support of?
how many, yeah,
It'll be
I
done
have
with-
a hearing aid.
Yeah, you and I both. With the support of the Dudley Highway Department?
Yes.
Okay. Vinnie? Can you come and join us so that if we have questions, we'll get quick answers?
Maybe you can help him with the map. He seems to be wrestling with it.
Whether Fred can get this
Yeah, flatten it out so Fred can zoom in on it. That'd be great.
on the camera.
Those mics come in handy, don't they?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think I have it in the right direction. Fred, am I in the right direction? Can you see it?
There we go.
He's coming.
Oh, not now.
Or you may want to use your finger just to kind of trace it because of the angle, Ken.
Okay.
All right.
The bridge opening, where the pedestrians will be walking, is 8 feet 6 inches. We're going to narrow that down to 7 feet to accommodate an emergency vehicle from the fire department. The reason why, and the other reason is if we kept it at 8 feet, it would be available for trucks to drive across, and we're frowning on that. So we'll either put some type of bullet or boulders to prevent trucks from going, but keeping the area open for 7 feet, and that's for the 6-wheel emergency vehicle the fire department has from a grant from the Patriots. Question, Mr. Joseph?
Not yet. I will.
Actually,
I'm okay now.
and actually, this bridge will connect with Webster and come out in the service road to the sewage treatment plant in Webster. So it's accessible from Brandon Road and from Hill Street. So vehicles could drive down there if they want, or they can park on the parking lot that's on Schofield Avenue and Carroll Drive in Dudley. The grade of the bridge, the grade of the trail is from the river to Schofield Avenue is 0.4 degrees. So it's easy, walkable. It's a little more than a quarter of a mile. And the bridge is ADA compliant. We'll also have a railing with fencing to allow for bicycles to cross, so there's no impediment or safety hazard for bicycles. And horses, but horses can cross, but the riders will, there'll be signage for the riders to dismount.
Okay. Joseph?
How close will this come, the trail extension, how close will that come to the rear of Oddlock Acres?
This
As it
doesn't
heads
come near
down.
Oddlock Acres at all. This is
Not at all?
not at all, no.
Is it going to cut through what we would call virgin forest at this
It's
point?
already existent. The rail bed has been there since 1849, and there was no trees on it.
Okay, and there's no variation from the rail bed?
No variation at all.
Okay.
We're
The only
building-
reason I ask, Kenny, is because, and the selectmen, is because there's a number of homeless people that periodically frequent that area, but maybe traffic in that area may be helpful.
It's for foot traffic. Again, there is a bullet on the entrance to the trail on Schofield Avenue.
There is, yep.
So I probably have to skinny up the opening because some trucks have been driving around the bullet.
Really?
And also, we had some vandalism. One of the barriers on the parking area was someone removed.
Can I ask a
Moved the
quick,
gate,
Sure.
the fencing.
Kenny, let me ask one quick question, because you mentioned the Patriots donated vehicle.
Yep.
To both the fire and police chiefs, do we have a ATV-type vehicle, four-wheel ATV? The one from the Patriots?
Yes, it's an 8-wheel,
Six-wheeler.
It's a
6-wheel.
six-wheeler.
Dean, you can come sit if you want.
That's all right. It's a Polaris. It's got a small tank and a pump on it. It also has a area where you can put a Stokes basket in case you had to haul somebody out of there that broke a leg or something.
And there's no need for anything smaller?
No, that's basically a little larger ATV.
Same width, though.
Yeah, it's a little wider, but I drove down there with them last year, like in the winter, and we talked about it and planned the whole thing out, so it should
Okay.
fit no problem.
Thank you, thank you.
There's no way we
Don't
can
ask that.
block dirt bikers or the side-by-sides, I'm sorry, yeah, side-by-sides from getting in there. There's no way. You can impede it, but it would be restricted for people walking to get on the trail.
Okay. Is there a second bridge that you want to work on too?
The second bridge is this one. The French River Bridge, we're going to be starting working on it in May.
We're already working.
Yeah. We've already built, it's going to be in modular form, and we'll be building it in 12-foot sections and bringing them down there, and then with a crane, putting them in place. So
What's the overall length of it going to be, Ken?
it's 105 feet.
Oh.
It's going over the present superstructure of the railroad, the previous railroad bridge. So there's no movement of earth and no cutting of trees. The second bridge is the little bridge off of Blue Herring Road at the cul-de-sac at the end. We put a temporary bridge up with 2x8s, and people are able to cross. So that's this year's project, and hopefully with some help, I'll be able to do the 3 bridges over the cattle underpasses. But with the French River Bridge open, that gives us total public access from Webster to the Thompson Town line. And in Quinnebog, we're open from the Quinnebog line all the way into the first bridge in Southbridge. We maintain approximately 2 miles of trail in Southbridge. And that's just strictly, we do is cutting of the weeds, and so we reduce the tick contact. And that brings me to the last item. In 2006, I was asked to build a rail trail. This is the last connector. I'm done. After the bridges are done, that finishes my obligation I had made with the town. And also, I would like to present the town with a little something.
Oh, that's cool.
This is the map from Quinnebog to Southbridge. This map here is from Thompson Line to Webster. It marks out the trail. And what I've done is I've taken a picture of the kiosks that are in each parking lot and transposed it just for you gentlemen.
Wow. That's amazing. A lot of work. I was waiting until he was done with the paper.
I'll blame-
Paper is not your friend today, sir. Yes, Mr. Joseph.
Ken, I know that I certainly speak for the board, and I hope for every single resident of Dudley. If it weren't for the passion, and that's really the only word I can use to describe, if it weren't for the passion that you primarily and other volunteers have had about making a rail trail a useful 365-day-a-year source of recreation for the people of Dudley and others. If it weren't for that passion, this wouldn't be. And it would be unjust to you and others who have volunteered over these 13, 14 years. It would be unjust if we didn't plead with anyone who enjoys the outdoors, anyone who has used the rail trail to hike, anyone who's a resident of Dudley that simply enjoys that kind of activity and is capable of it, to step forward as you deservedly stepped down from a decade and a half of passionate work on the rail trail. So I want to thank you. I really do.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. And I will be still working on the trail because my term doesn't expire until June 30th of, June 30th of 2020. So I'll be still doing work, but my mission to connect the trail has been done. The only thing I ask that if we can get together with our state senator and possibly our national representatives to get, to foster some movement on the town of Connecticut to some way of building a trail through the 3.3 miles in Thompson. The economic development part of that is tremendous. New York State invested in a trail system. The canal trail in New York generates $2.5 million a year to the towns that abut the trail. It's a nice incentive. They're going ahead and they're improving. They're going to make another trail about the same length widthwise across the state. So the opportunity for Dudley and Webster and Southbridge and Thompson is tremendous. With a minimal investment in infrastructure.
You know, I could have sworn, I heard you say earlier, that the completion of this work this summer, of these bridges, that completed your obligation to the town of Dudley. It doesn't sound like you're talking that way now.
Well, I won't be doing anything for the town. I'll be doing it as an advocate.
Okay.
After my term of office is finished, which is again next year.
Mr. Marson?
Yeah, we owe you a great deal of thanks.
We really do, Ken. I mean, just since I've been on the board and just watched you out there, seen you around and just, like, when I look at guys like you and the guys and girls on the historical committee, and if you guys didn't do this, it wouldn't happen, right? You pick up this ball and run with it, and with all the red tape and getting people to, all agree on how it needs to be done and when, and getting materials and sourced and labor and, approvals of, municipal stuff, you did it, right? This is your opus, right? This is,
Thank you.
I'm just still blown away. I mean, just that it's almost coming to an end like there, but there's still more. And the economic development part of it, I absolutely in agreement with you, why it's important, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Not bad, Rook. Couldn't hear me good. Okay. You for the-
Can open that now? Yes, next up, we're going to go back to the public hearing at 7 o'clock. I just opened that.
At 7:06.
FAA forward.
FAA, if you could join us, whether at the table, here, wherever you'd like.
And all you do is you declare the public hearing open and the time.
At 7:06, yeah.
And I'm going to declare the public hearing open at 7:07 PM. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Evening, sir.
Good evening.
So this is the annual meeting that the selectmen have jointly with the FAA to review the annual town meeting warrant. And it's a public hearing, so that if anyone in the audience has any questions, at the conclusion of the meeting, the board will consider the warrant by voting it and signing it. We're always facing the calendar, and the calendar requires us, this is the last posted meeting that we can vote to sign the warrant, unless we would have a special meeting, and I don't see that that's necessarily to anyone's advantage. So if you'd like, we can go through the articles, and as the different department heads have made requests, I would ask them to come forward and maybe address those, Mr. Chairman, with your permission.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, so Articles 1 and 2 are routine. They're to hear town reports and to hear committee recommendations. There's no action that's needed. Article number 3 is to pay unpaid bills of a prior year. It requires a 4/5 vote. Typically, we have to go through some housekeeping where bills get submitted at the end of the fiscal year. This would have been for last fiscal year. And the only way that we can legally pay those is to get a vote at town meeting. I should make a note that although dollars are noted in these articles, we still need to nail down the exact funding sources in many instances. And what we do is, prior to town meeting, written motions will be developed, and those written motions will identify the funding source on each of the articles that's here this evening. Article number 4 is FY 2019 budget transfers. Those are monies that are needed to remediate any shortfalls in this year's budget. And what we like to do is we go through and we'll provide a separate exhibit which will list what those shortfalls would be, both where the money is needed and where the money is coming from. And we provide that as a handout at town meeting. At this time, there's no further information on that article. Articles 5 and Article 6 were submitted by the Agricultural Advisory Commission, which is a committee that was created by vote of town meeting. Article 5 is noting that there are term limits associated with members who do serve on it. And Article 6 provides a mechanism for voting alternate positions. I don't know if there's anyone here from the Agriculture Advisory Board, Mr. Chairman, if you would maybe comment on anything.
Yes, please.
On it?
Is anyone here from the Agricultural Advisory Board?
Paul?
What would you like to know?
No, just didn't know whether there was any particular comments. Maybe I missed something.
No, we've tried to lay out a system. The Ag Commission has been getting all of its regular members and a number of alternates showing up and a number of interested people for every one of our meetings or gatherings and discussions. We just had our first formal meeting. And all we're trying to do is to set it up so that those alternates will know if a regular is not there in attendance at that one meeting, they'll know the order in which they can serve as a voting member at that particular meeting. That's all it's intended to do. Thank you.
Article 7. Article 7 is the fiscal year 2020 operating budget. It lays out all of the expenses and revenues that we need to go toward the budget for next year. This is not the budget detail, so what we do provide is we provide budget detail, and budget detail will be provided and is a handout for town meeting. That's all of the line item breakdowns on each departmental spending, along with what was voted previously, what was spent in the prior year, and what the request is for FY 2020. The budget, as you see here, is the same budget that was approved by both the FAA and Selectmen at their last meeting. It's $20,131,531. Just their rounding is the difference in $1. If you look at funding sources versus the annual budget, we don't carry it out to the cents, but we have a balanced budget. The sources for revenue are shown on page 2 of the budget detail. They show the amounts in taxation, new growth, debt exclusions, state aid and reimbursements, free cash, stabilization fund, and local receipts, indirect fees, and total revenues that are applied toward the budget. I would want to say, for clarity purposes, the budget is balanced. There's no override that's included in here. There's no override that's contemplated as part of this budget. We do have a balanced budget, and again, the amounts that are seen here are reflective of what was previously approved by both the Selectmen and the FAA. Any questions on the budget? Yes, sir. Oh, Mr. Chairman.
No, go ahead.
I want to be sure that at the end of this meeting, the Selectmen will vote to place all of these all of these articles in front of the people at the Maytown meeting.
Right, and then you come up with the recommendations.
All right, what are you looking for? Are you looking for any kind of separate motion, either from the FAA or from us, specifically on Article 7?
No, because you've already voted, both boards have voted what's here, so there's no additional actions that are needed. This is the budget that was presented at public meetings for both the FAA and the Selectmen, so there are no changes, Paul.
So my last question, Mr. Chairman, what do you expect for a vote tonight from the FAA?
I'm not sure that they need to take a vote this evening, because the budget's already been voted on. If they wish to discuss a recommendation, typically they try to do that in a meeting separate from this. And you know, we can go through and formulate recommendations on individual articles, but I don't think we need that vote this evening.
Thank you.
I believe you have a meeting just before town meeting?
Yeah.
And you usually go through these then?
Yep.
It's been a few years, but I remember.
You know it well.
Yeah.
So again, I want to emphasize, no override, no debt exclusion, no new debt exclusion in here. The budget is balanced, and that is kind of it, and I hope that it goes smoothly. Article 8 is a routine article. It requires us to authorize our revolving funds, and state law requires that we do this annually. And we also establish the dollar amount, which is the maximum amount that goes into the revolving fund. Any revolving fund with a balance at the end of the year reverts back to the general fund. So, and there's no liability or risk to the town. It's a fairly routine article. They're not considered a town revenue, nor are they budgeted for as a town revenue. And that's a request of the accountant. Article 9. Article 9 is an additional amount of money that we need for our regional dispatch center. So what we do is We put together, I'm the chairman of that committee, the Regional Dispatch Committee. We put together a budget every year, and then what happens is Webster is responsible for paying the cost of health insurance, pensions, and employee benefits. So depending upon what their cost is, it can either be a credit or an additional amount that comes on us. So this would have been a bill that we would have received in a timely manner. We did receive it before the end of the year, but we didn't have sufficient funds to be able to pay it. So we do owe an additional $8,773.89, and I think it's well worth it and well worth our obligations. I should also mention that as part of the town's overall budget, we do, under Article 8, we do include within the treasurer's budget an amount representing our fiscal 2020 assessment for the South Worcester County Communications Center. So that's there. So if people say, where is it? It's in the treasurer's budget, and when people see the detail at town meeting, they'll see that amount that's included in there and budgeted in there. I think it's a good deal for us. And as chairman, just to get word out, I'll be stepping down, and Mr. Ruda will be stepping in. But there also will need to be a representative from the Selectmen who will need to be appointed. Mr. Fox's term, Mr. Fox will not be serving after June, and I know he's the representative on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, so just kind of keep that in mind if you're anyone that, any of you gentlemen or Mr. Sullivan that wants to serve, we need some leadership on that board. I don't think you'll be chairman the first year, but you will be eventually. Article 10, Special Legislative Act, Department of Public Works. This is the continuation of what we've talked about over the last few months. This is all of the detail. There are no changes from the last time that this was before the board, but it does indicate that there'll be a DPW. The DPW will have certain powers and duties under the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen will be the highway, cemetery commissioners. Will also fulfill the role of being the sewer and water commissioners. However, there also will be, under the legislation, a separate water and sewer advisory board, which will be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. At the center of the proposal is to have a professional DPW director who will be appointed by the Board of Selectmen to run the operation. And there will be different divisions within the department under which the DPW director will manage. So this is a culmination of the report that was submitted to the board back in January. It was done by an outside consulting firm who...
With the changes that we've made.
With the changes that you made, this was, the name of the firm was Municipal Resources, Inc. They came in and did an analysis, and this was what their recommendation was, and the recommendation was adopted by the Board of Selectmen. So council has reviewed this and made a number of non-substantive changes in here, but made the wording consistent with what the board has desired for a DPW. And so that is the crux of it, and it's here to be voted by town meeting. Questions?
Any questions? Any comments? No?
Okay, Article 11. Article 11 is acceptance of an easement. This is a property off of Lyons Road where the owner has approached the town and indicated that he wishes to gift the town an easement that would allow access to some property that we own off of Lyons Road and north of the Connecticut state line. This would allow us to have access to that property. Council drafted the broad language that you see here that includes purchase, gift, or eminent domain, but the intent is to have it gifted, not to take it and not to pay for it. The council feels as though it's to our advantage to leave the broadest possible language that's in here. And if this is granted, then it does provide access to that back piece, which is fairly large and otherwise we don't have any access to.
Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, Greg, either you or Rich, I think Rich is in here still,
He's here.
Can you tell us all, and tell the public, what the size of the acreage is of the piece of property that we own off of
Alliance.
Lions Road? About? Ballpark?
It might be 25 acres? 24,
There's an open
25 acres?
microphone over here if you'd like,
Yeah.
Mr. Carmignani.
I have to guess. It's over 30.
Over 30 acres. Do we know approximately what the assessed value of that land is? Ballpark?
It's not worth anything because there's not 50 or 100 feet of road frontage.
Right, but I mean, once we get that, can this easement, has it been agreed to in principle with the landowner?
Yeah, the landowner has indicated his intent to do this. So we want to follow up and make sure that we cross our Ts and dot our Is, and the way to do that, we have to submit it to town meeting.
Okay.
Once town meeting authorizes it, then Rich and/or the town administrator can be involved in working out the details.
Okay, so my question then is, once it's authorized, is that a permanent easement? Or is it an easement that can be
Permanent.
reneged on?
Permanent.
Permanent
So
access.
what we would want is a document that's recordable, Paul.
Yeah,
So we would work with the owner to develop a plan, and that plan would be recorded, and that plan would depict where the easement would be located.
my last question is, because I know we've talked about this for a long time. If the easement is processed and it's permanent, will the town be able to convey that easement in selling the amount of acreage that it provides access to?
I wasn't involved in the discussion for it, so I'd let Mr. Valiakonis give his
Sure,
reflection on
why
it.
not, Paul?
We can convey that?
Well, you know,
We sell the
remember,
land.
remember, all this does is this allows us, authorizes us to work out the details with the owner of the property.
I didn't ask that question right.
I know.
Is the easement transferable by sale of the land
To be-
behind
To be
it?
determined, Paul,
Okay,
to be determined.
that's important. I mean, that's why we want to get this easement. Okay.
But Rich will tell you that it's a difficult parcel to
Well,
access.
You guys have been working on it for a while.
A little bit.
It's like it's a ravine, isn't it?
No, you're thinking of another one. I think the reason there was some generosity here, perhaps a change of heart, is that I think there's a difference between the town gaining access, and we can spell it out, as opposed to somebody having, fill in the blank, what do you do with 30-plus acres? It was my understanding the town would be granted a developable easement so that the town could use it wisely. Conversely, and let's play the bridge hand out, if you had the best access to a piece of backland, you'd never want to give it up. You'd want it for yourself, so that the development rights would be yours. I think we could meet somewhere in the middle where, my own personal view, as much as I'm the tax title custodian, be up for the Board of Selectmen, perhaps the voters, you know, those are fields waiting to happen, or something, you know. Active
I'm
recreation,
grateful.
passive recreation, Ken Butkevich is talking about something. You want to host a softball tournament in Dudley? I got a great place for you.
Yeah.
Look at this. Or something similar. How many people here have kids under the age of 18 and you got to drive them somewhere to go play sports? The dream would be a swimming pool or an ice hockey rink there.
I
but,
wanted to put a field complex in here for a long time.
you get me $10, $12 million, we can get an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Hang on, let me.
Ice rink. Listen, John's got it, but it's not liquid.
Do we know anyone who can write grants?
I don't want to stray too far,
Oh, that's good stuff.
but I'm grateful
Thank you.
for this easement
Thank you, Mr.
and the
Carmignani.
opportunity.
Yep. Oh, good news.
Rich, did Article 12 is the investment policy? Huh?
You know, if you guys have questions, I use the vernacular, you guys. If you folks have questions, pop them. You guys have a better sense of finances than we do.
I'll let you talk, really, I will. Go ahead, Mr. Cunningham.
Okay, I believe '05 going into '06, the town of Dudley adopted an investment policy. A lot of it was boilerplate language from Shrewsbury. A few other things were added in. Moving forward, Municipal Modernization Act, everything else that's happened financially. A lot of things have changed, FDIC limits and what have you. The people who handle our investments, this is their boilerplate. It's very similar in concept to what we had. This just makes sure that we have all the statutory references correct. Moving forward, what we have and what we're hoping to adopt allow me to do the same thing as treasurer for the town of Dudley. So we could buy marketable securities as long as they're on the legal list, and not to bore everybody. We can do that. Had we $5 million in a stabilization fund, but what we're doing is, Aura, the town clerk, was the one who gave me a tap on the shoulder saying, we haven't reviewed this in, 13 years? It's time. So we're replacing what we had, which was solid but dated, to the newer streamlined version, which had taken out some of the specific references. Best example, in '06, it was a $100,000 FDIC limit. Now it's $250,000. But then again, they could change that. So the reference, I believe, is up to the FDIC limit, things like that.
Mr. Joseph?
Will the new language allow us to put out any investment questions to bid if we so desire?
Be more specific on investment questions.
Well, I don't know if I can be more specific. The new language, you said it's the boilerplate of the company that currently handles our investment.
Correct.
So my question is, will that language be primarily to their benefit, or will it be language that can be capitalized on by any investment company that wishes to put a bid in to do business with us?
This is 100% portable.
So the answer to my question is yes.
Absolutely, yes. We could take this to whomever.
Got it. That's all I need. I get a yes, that's good from you.
Anyone else?
I will make one asterisk on here. Right now, the town of Dudley's risk tolerance, I think, is 0. We're not putting any money into anything that's going to vacillate. You're not going to watch Mad Money, and all of a sudden, I'm going to be sending emails. We're on the slow and steady boat. We're we're only at about the 2.6. We're not going.
You're not day trading with tax money?
You know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Mr. Valiakonis? Unless anyone has anything on that? No? I think we're on number
Ask the
13.
chief of police to speak to Articles 13, 14, and 15, followed by the highway department concerning Article 16.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Articles 13 and 14 are usually routine transfers. We base these upon, we collect fees for warrant services, and we also collect fees during the firearms licensing process. So for both of these things, we transfer money in usually on an annual basis, just to cover some of the costs that we've incurred over the year, either for personnel, equipment, or whatever it was over that time. So these two are just a couple of general routine transfers. If there's any questions on those specifically, I can go over them, but otherwise, these happen pretty much every year.
Anyone?
Last Article 15 is the re-up for our police cruiser. We had asked for this last year. As you can recall, we had a debt exclusion vote that was going on. It is running out as of now. The board has chosen not to do any other debt exclusions at this time, so that source of funding is going to be going away. So I understand this may not be funded at this time, but this will have to be addressed most likely by the fall. We did not purchase a vehicle last year, and now we're going on to this year, where we will not be purchasing one unless we do something about this. So it is one thing we have to address coming up. So I'm willing to get into anything if you want to try to do something in the fall as far as debt exclusions go, or anything else that you want to try to do, I'll be game for it. But it's just something we have to plan for, because we can't fall behind like we did before and get behind the 8 ball with funding, not funding cars, and then running into the problem where we have to replace 2 and 3 and 4 almost at one time.
Any questions?
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Valiakonis, Article 16, Vinnie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This Article 16 is to replace the 2003 street sweeper catch basin combo unit that we have. It's really rough shape, and hopefully we'll get through it this season, sweeping the roads. But it has 2 jobs to do. It needs to clean the basins and the drop inlets also. And we're kind of under a little pressure from stormwater management that will get that part done too. So this would be a great asset to the department and to the town. The funding, the purchase price is $225, and I'm not really sure what the plans are for the town to do this, but there is possibly some way I can get some money from the state to help pay for this machine, not to completely pay for it. So I just wanted to throw that out there as an option. And any questions?
Anyone?
I think his plan is a good one.
Yeah.
Anytime the state can partially pay the cost, it sounds like a good plan.
Any idea, Vinnie, how much?
$225,000.
Oh, no, how much, yeah, how much would the state kick in?
I didn't put, you have to put in a project request, and I didn't do that yet, but I'm gonna guess probably maybe half.
Okay.
That would be my goal.
Making it easier pill to swallow.
So we would have to approve this before you could go forward with that?
Well, no, just some direction if it's gonna go, then I'll put the project request in and see if it gets approved. This probably won't happen till fall, is from my understanding.
I think it's a deferment till the fall.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
But as long as I'm going the right direction to attempt to get funding for it.
I understand. Anyone else, anything? Nothing?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Article 17?
I would ask the Water and Sewer Commissioner members and Superintendent who are here this evening to address Articles 17 through 21. They're a combination of Water Department and Sewer Department articles. They involve funding requests, and I would, if they would come forward, I would appreciate it.
We got one right over here.
Oh, no problem. Oh, well, give me the cushy chair.
Before you start, let me ask a question. I need a definition, help. Article 18 refers to repurposing funds. I've never seen that word repurpose in a warrant article. Help me understand why that word was chosen, what that word means as it relates to Article 18.
More like resequencing, putting old articles that have been sitting in place from old projects, using them for the new projects coming up now, rewording them for the proper terminology, so we can use those for the new projects that are upcoming.
So that 60,000 from 2012 and the other date, whenever it was, that 60,000 was appropriated, but never actually used.
Correct.
It was excess funds on other warrant articles, but
So
it's
has
sitting
that
out there.
stayed with the Water Department funds?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We want to make sure we utilize those funds for things we need right now that are
Okay,
pending.
I just never seen that word before.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As you guys know, Article 17, we're going to be revamping our station number 3. It's one of 2 pumping stations that are currently in service in town. the only 2 stations that are in service in town. And it requires test welling, test drilling, trying to find a cavity down into the aquifer and putting a new well. It's an emergency situation, emergency appropriation, it has to be done. So we Band-Aided the station enough, the station collapsed back in 2014, the well collapsed. We've been Band-Aiding it for this, we just put 15,000 into it again a couple months, 4 months ago, just to get it running. We need the station. If we don't have the station, we're out of water, we're out of luck. So the plan is to get that station back online, back with a new well, and if all goes well, we can plumb it right off the side of the building somewhere and put a new submersible pump from the well into the station. So that's what Article 17 is. We're also going to be, as Mr. Joseph said, we've been requesting to move some funds around. I know it's quite detailed, I won't go into all of it. We have some projects that are coming up also. I might as well say this now since I was going to bring it up later in the meeting. I did some research on a third water source, a new water source. I know the town's been wondering about us trying to find some new sources of water. Our main station, which is going to piggyback off Station 3, is an old shallow well system. It's out of service right now. We've had bacteria hits problems, vacuuming problems where the pipes are cracked. It's only a shallow well. It's only 2.5-inch pipes. And I did some research with some other towns and well drillers to see if we can test for some deep gravel wells on that site. I've informed DEP of my intentions, and they thought it was a marvelous idea. The well driller suggested I do exactly that. He has a couple towns that have done it, and it's come up with some success. But I want to caution, it's a shot in the dark. It may work or it may not work, but there's a good chance it will provide us with a third pumping station, which we need desperately. So some of these articles that are being moved around for monies that have been sitting in the accounts for a long time will be going to that test welling of that station also after Station 3. They'll be moving the equipment up to test Station 1. That's one of the projects that's been put on the front burner by DEP, along with Station 3. They consider this an emergency situation also because the town, we're getting up there in our pumpage at close to capacity because of the college's increased their usage. The town in general has increased some usage. Demands on the corrosion control program, the state mandates have increased. It all falls in line to, as you go into Article 21, is transferring some monies for overtime accounts. We've had numerous new state protocols for alarm systems, pump upgrades, chemical treatment upgrades. It's causing a massive amount of overtime because the alarms go off continuously. Every little spike you get, every little problem you get. We never had to do this before, now we do. If we don't do it, we're subject to non-compliance and fines. So we've also had infrastructure issues with pipes breaking, main breaks, massive amounts of loss of water. As we go into the other parts of it too, you'll see articles for radio read systems and for the meter systems. I'm just making this real general and brief so nobody gets bored. We're upgrading our meter reading system. We're finding we're losing copious amounts of money for I'll call it meter tampering, for properties that are not haven't registered properly in years. I'll give the department big credit for researching this, looking out during our meeting time, and they're finding these problems, and they're going ahead and they're investigating it. And the new software coming out with the meter readers, the radio readers, the systems we've been putting in right now are going to save us a lot of money, and we're going to get a lot of money coming into us when this gets online. It's going to tell us what's out there, where things are leaking, where things are having problems, where we need to go and check something out or fix something or whatever. I'm not a computer guy, but it's a phenomenal system, and all the towns are going that way, and we're just coming up now to try to get up with the rest of the other towns. So I think that's going to work out very well.
George?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, tampering with these things, is it intentional? Are they just broken, nobody noticed? I mean, you didn't get a water bill for 50 years and all?
Yeah.
It could be some of each.
Yeah, it's a combination. Sometimes people don't realize, until you get into the sellers to look at, to check the meters out, sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not, somebody did something to it, and they left like the head off or something like that, where it's not reading. But the problem is that for a long time, in many years, all the analysis and stats have come back and haven't really been researched as to why they're that way, until our new group of people here have gone through and say, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't look right, let's go investigate this.
Good job.
And Brian Doyle is our meter guy, and he's been doing a great job trying to enact, and we've enacted some new policies, new tampering policies. We've enacted some new things where we go out, and if people don't want us in the houses, they've got certain weeks of notices and constables and that, and we're ready to shut down the water if we have to, like we've done way back. And we find that when they see that happening, they do come forward and they say, come on in. So it's been working very well for us.
So it has some teeth in it. That's the
We've never had teeth, now we've got some teeth.
Good.
Yep.
Mr. Joseph?
Thank you.
We added the amount of teeth that legal counsel has allowed,
Yeah.
We've added as much as we can legally add.
On Article 19, I have a question. On the I&I study, the inflow and infiltration, which I know we desperately need, do you anticipate that could be completed, this portion of it could be completed during this coming fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay.
This portion of it is the second of three for
That area?
for research and finding. And then after the third stage will be that's where the rubber's going to hit the road, and this is what we need to do to fix it.
Thank you.
It's old pipes,
Yep.
roots. There's all kinds of ways water gets into the system.
Thank you.
The bottom line is we don't want to send clean water to sewer treatment. It doesn't make
Makes
sense.
sense to me.
I have no other questions.
No other questions? Anything? Anything? Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor?
just a question on Article 20. The $20,000, is that a roundup, or is that actual?
That's the same radio read upgrade I was talking about. The water and sewer share radio read upgrades together. Unfortunately, for some reason, the sewer hadn't had that article put in the last couple of years, but they have to, because all the meters read for both water and sewer. So with the new program coming online, some of that money is going to be used for the new software. And as you see people going out going against, they won't need that anymore. It'll be all done through radio read, through even the vehicles. It's getting into even cell phones now. It's a marvelous thing, and it's going to tell them exactly all the information they need when they go out, so they know if they have a problem with something, it's going to pinpoint it almost immediately.
Well, I guess the question I had was more on the way the article was written for the 20, because it doesn't have the capital improvement on that. So is that been submitted?
Yeah, we can
We can change.
we can make that a change when the motion gets done. We usually have a joint article.
We've been replacing heads for a number of years now. Most of this is to purchase the head end.
I guess what I'm
Can
saying
actually
is
collect
capital
the-
How
improvement,
would you make a change? That's a good question.
what I'm asking, I guess my question is capital improvement going to need to meet before town meeting?
No, this has been an ongoing, this is, I know
Because
where you're going with it.
The article's 20,000, so it's got I don't want the article to be out of order. Because capital improvement is at 20,000 and above. So if this was 19,990, it would fall outside of capital improvement. So I just want to make sure.
We could change that to 19,990, there's no problem.
Thank you.
It's not going to make a big difference.
Thank you.
You just have to be consistent.
Check the box, right?
Yeah.
That's
Good call out, Mike.
an important point.
Anything else?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
What are you gonna, you're not gonna read this whole planning board stuff?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go over real quick. No. 2022 is
Thank you.
just rezoning some property up on Marshall Terrace from Business 15 to Residential 10. I recall there was some controversy about this, and I believe it's something that's supported by the property owners. Article 23,
15 up there?
yeah. Article 23 is correcting various typographical errors, incorrect wording, missing information, etc., that the town planner has put together with the zoning bylaw. He's reviewed all of this in great detail with town council. And the bylaw that was previously voted, some of what was voted didn't get translated into the actual zoning bylaw in the proper way. And this article doesn't create anything new. What it does is corrects everything that's there and puts it in an order that is logical and makes sense in accordance with past votes. So there are a number of pages involved with that. 24 is, you can find your way, flip a couple of pages. Article 24 is amending the zoning bylaw as it relates to accessory apartments and the definition for two-family duplex homes. Again, this is something that the planner has worked closely with council on. I can't speak to the necessity of it beyond knowing that the planning board, I think, has a public hearing scheduled. And I think it's, I don't want to say it's 10th? No. I'd have to get you the date on that, but I know that anyone that wants to have more information on any of the planning articles, I would encourage them to go to the planning board public hearing.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, planning board articles can be very intimidating and very confusing. And I'm gonna guess that well over half the people vote or keep quiet because they don't understand it.
Sure.
So can we make sure at this meeting that there is some kind of summary in the King's or Queen's English, in this case, the Queen's English,
Yep.
that succinctly explains what the intent of the warrant article is?
At least make sure someone from the planning board is there.
With Cliff Notes, a Reader's Digest version.
Yep.
Terry?
Yes. Chief?
Have a town planner that should be allowed to speak at town meeting, as he's a subject matter expert at it, that's why you have a department head.
Very true.
There it is.
And he was the author of a lot of these things, so.
Articles
Dean, that leads us to Article 25.
Good evening. Article 25 is the last year of the 4-year gear replacement plan. I've been before all 3 committees over the last 4 years. This would fulfill the last 12 sets of replacement gear, and then there would be a 6-year hiatus before we would have to start replacing again. And I did this obviously so for 2 reasons. So you're not replacing them all at once and asking for a big chunk of money all at once, and number 2, you don't have to replace them all at once when they expire.
Chief, are these the ones I had seen that have the holes in them and the expiration dates are either there or close?
Correct. Actually, the ones we're replacing, actually, if I remember correctly, they expired in 2017,
Okay.
which is NFPA regulation.
That might be a good idea. Thank you, Chief. Anything
Thanks.
from anyone? So-
Normally, we deal with it at the fall town meeting, so typically Dean puts it on with the understanding that we want to make it a priority, and we typically fund it in the fall.
I do understand that. I've worked closely with the administrator, and I expect it'll be passed over to the fall, being approved in the
Okay.
fall. That's fine.
I'll be there to speak on it. Article 26.
Is that one of the routine articles?
Yeah,
we get?
26 is routine, and this will be likely an article that gets postponed until fall, which is typically when we fund it. 27 is town clerk expenses. The request is $589 to be transferred into the current year town clerk expense account for genealogy services. 28 is a really large article. It's an article that's been submitted by the town clerk. It's been reviewed and amended by town council, so it's been gone through the town council review process. So it's a bylaw, unlike the zoning bylaws, those take 2/3 vote. This takes a majority vote to approve, and it tackles the issue of kenneling, commercial kennels and such, training kennels, And it goes into a number of other changes to the animal control bylaw, but again, specifically as it relates mostly toward kennels, which have, if you've been kind of following what's been going on with the ZBA, has been an issue, where people open up commercial breeding kennels in residential property, and then they're told that they need to go forward and get a permit.
This is such a welcome article.
So this is something that
And
has
it's
to,
This
well
is just the
written.
dogs, right? Not any other
this is
animals?
dogs.
Okay.
This is dogs.
Would you say this is more constrictive or more open to kennels?
I think I'm not gonna speak in terms, because I wasn't the author of this, so I would just say that it provides the sufficient level of detail for both residents, business owners, and town officials to understand what is allowed and what is not allowed. Because there were certain gray areas in the way it was written.
That was a good,
Eliminates any of the gray.
that was a good diplomatic answer.
Well, that's, I guess, why.
Try to get a straight answer out of him, and he
I
dances
guess
like
I've
Fred
been here as long
Astaire.
as I have. You better get. Article 29 is a companion article submitted by the planning board, and companion because it relates to dog kennels. And so, this is a zoning amendment, so it's a 2/3 vote. And you can see how it establishes, certain types of kennels are allowed or not allowed, or a special permit in various districts. And again, this comes from the fact that some residents unfortunately don't understand that there are regulations relating to kenneling. You can't just open a commercial kennel in the middle of a residential neighborhood and expect that that's a permitted activity. And so the detail is here. I'll leave it to the planning board to further explain it at their public hearing in terms of what the details are associated with it.
Mr. Joseph?
Are there any known conflicts between the two articles regarding kennels? I know there's variances.
Those conflicts have been reconciled. So
They are.
any conflicting language has been completely reconciled
Okay,
and been thoroughly
That was my
reviewed by
concern.
council, because we try to get council in early in reviewing articles like this. And so Aura, the town clerk, and council have worked closely in reconciling any inconsistencies, so the document that works.
thank you.
Dean, back to you on Article 30.
Yeah, this is just a local adoption of Chapter 148, Section 26H. Back in 2013, we adopted 26I for 4-family and aboves to require sprinklers in all new construction or major rehab of multifamily structures. This just is a separate section of the law saying that it will include boarding houses and dormitories. And the reason we decided to do this was a couple of these multifamily dwellings that surround the college are being repurposed as dormitories. People are buying them and then changing them into dormitories. So I've been working closely with the building inspector and my assistant chief, and we decided the best course of action was to require sprinklers in these buildings for obvious reasons. And this just gives it, obviously, law is the highest regulatory thing that you can get. It's higher than any regulation or CMR, so this just gives it a little more bite and makes it more stringent, so we can ensure that sprinklers get installed where they should be.
Mr. Joseph?
Does this stop some of the activity around Nichols in terms of purchasing property and turning it into residences for students who can't get into the dorms or don't want to get into the dorms? Does this stop that kind of activity in its track?
I wouldn't say it, I hope I'm answering this correctly. I wouldn't say it stops it, Mr. Joseph, but it adds another layer of protection. If these buildings are repurposed as dormitories with college-age students in there, it just offers them a level of protection and safety.
Okay, and we've talked about this over the years. We just want to be sure that we avoid any kind of accidental tragedy.
Oh, and that's exactly what this will do. I mean, we're working closely with the building department, and we're working with a gentleman now that's doing this with one of these buildings, and he's actually been very good about it, this one individual. He's putting the sprinklers in, he's gonna put a monitored fire alarm system in, so.
All right, my last question is that, to your knowledge, will anybody be grandfathered in to avoid this particular action?
Not to my knowledge, but there's a little more to it than that.
Right.
It involves myself and the building inspector, a good portion of the sprinkler codes in the building code as well. But Nelson and I have worked closely, and I think we're getting things done and going in the right direction.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Dean.
Anyone else? No, thank you, Chief.
Rich, Article 31, 32.
'31 and '32 go hand in hand as much as they go across 2 fiscal years. We put the insurance recovery money into a stabilization account so that we could pull it back out for the debt service for 2 years' payments. We put it in there specifically because it requires a 2/3 vote to get it out. It didn't roll into free cash, it didn't do anything. Put them in a placeholder. Town meeting allows me to go through and make this year's pay down and to make next year's pay down. Make it part of the budget.
Okay.
Then the account will be zero.
Any questions for the treasurer collector? Anyone? No. Thank you, Rich.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Article 33. Article 33 is granting an easement on town-owned property adjacent to the post office. As part of the fire station project, we eliminated a right-of-way to the owner of adjacent property. And what this intends to do is to grant a similar easement across town property so that that person can have equal value for the right-of-way that was extinguished. So in the fire station project, it was discovered that no one knew that there was a right-of-way that existed to the rear of the building, and that right-of-way went to the post office property, and we could not do that project with that right-of-way remaining as is. It was sufficiently sized that it would prohibit the project from happening. So I did work with the property owner, and an agreeable solution was discovered that we would grant a way that they could utilize or not utilize, but they would be something that would exist on a deed and a legal document to give them access to similar size property right away on the easterly side of the post office. Just a wooded area right now, there's nothing that's there. And this allows us to be able to do that. And avoids a potentially messy situation with the fire station.
Any questions?
Could I go back quickly to Article 30, a question for the chief?
Article 30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the sprinkler system have to be installed by a special licensed entity? I mean, it's not like a regular
Yes.
plumber that does.
Yes, you have to have a sprinkler license to install sprinklers.
Gotcha. All right, that's what I was curious about. Thank you. Sorry.
Massachusetts will probably,
Any questions
Someone
on
has-
Article 33?
No, nothing on anyone? Nope, good.
34. 34 is a petition article. It seeks to amend the zoning bylaw by changing the solar overlay district by prohibiting solar uses in residential 10, residential 15, residential 30, residential 43, and residential 87, along with commercial district business 15, and light industrial 43 and 87. The only locations where commercial solar facilities would be allowed would be the industrial 43, the industrial 130, and the town refuse disposal district. So that's a petition article.
Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, you know, I tell you, when I see this little note down below, I wonder if it's important enough to put onto the warrant for the town meeting. Why is it not important enough to include in the bylaw? And here's why. You know how many times we've said this? We want, in the selectmen's meetings, our motions to be clear to a fault. Because years from now, we're all dead and gone. And they're looking at our pictures up there as oil paintings. People aren't gonna know if they can't clearly understand the motions. So, if this is important enough to list, why is it not part of the bylaw itself? I worry that it will not become part of the record.
If approved, you mean?
Yeah. I worry about that.
Beyond that, Mr. Chairman, do you really?
Yes.
Is this what this actually says?
I mean, it's gonna be debated.
I mean, it's a petition article. They received enough signatures, correct?
That's right.
We
That's it. It
should
goes on.
let it,
It
we
goes
should
on
let
whether
it
we
go
like it or
forward,
not.
correct?
Oh, I'm not gonna vote, I'm not gonna vote not to put it on.
Oh, no.
I just wanna know why we can't make that, why it's not part of the proposal.
And I don't know enough
If that gets amended on the floor to say what it says underneath, I'll vote for it. If it doesn't, there's a greater likelihood I won't vote for it. Because those are two important sentences. I don't know if that's an opinion or a question, I don't know.
Well, his planning board, like, do they have an opinion on this, Greg?
You know, they have to, this has to be included within their articles that they submit for a public hearing. So as part of that public hearing that is upcoming, I don't have the date, they'll have
Oh,
to.
so it'll be before town meeting?
They'll have to address
Okay.
this article.
All right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
Yeah, they have to address this article. Even though submitted by petition, they're still obligated to include this within the articles they hold a public hearing on, and they're required to formulate a recommendation for town meeting.
This is-
and it says here 250 kilowatt. I don't know enough about solar power to know if that's like a camping cell phone charger or if that's a football field.
If it's irrelevant, why mention it? That's what I'm saying.
Well, this,
Well, we can debate that at the
well,
town meeting.
well, the
that's for
article
sure.
greatly restricts where big systems can go, right?
Signature.
Well, whoever sponsored it, I hope that they will be amenable to including some language
I'll take them all.
that addresses the
I'll
notes.
take them
And it looks like that's the last one.
all. Not till I leave. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would ask that you vote to sign the annual town meeting warrant as recommended of May 20th, 2019.
Get a motion?
So moved.
We've got a motion?
What's that motion?
You gotta
Sign
close the
this.
hearing first. He's right.
We've got to close the hearing first.
Yeah.
No one else has any other comments, questions? I'm going to close the public hearing at 8:04 PM.
Now, Mr. Massey, what was your motion?
Mr. Chairman, I know, we get a little lazy. Well, because his last point was about our motions being clear, so how would I be clear, Paul? Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve to put this warrant on the annual spring town meeting, the warrant on spring town meeting.
Was that clear enough for you, Mr.
Second.
Joseph?
Vote on that.
Was that clear enough for
Yep.
you? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
We'll take a moment to sign those.
That was a lot less painful than it's been in the past.
A lot more work, it's very clear what we.
Yeah,
what
good job,
is-
Greg.
Good job, Greg and team.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, got all that done. And there's some interesting ones, we'll get some discussion. No, no.
Okay.
Especially me.
Something about agreeing not to have a solar system on your roof.
3 copies, you guys, right? Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, we're gonna put a joint, wet turbine on our property. But that'd be interesting.
Oh, I just heard you say joint, and I was gonna say, I get tested at work. I don't know what you're talking about.
La, 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 la. It's 2.
He's got 3.
I go.
Next up is board member comments.
That's that one. That's it, right?
That's
Just
it,
two?
yes. Next up on the agenda is board member comments. Mr. Marcy.
Excuse me,
Me?
Mr. Chairman, are you all
Yes.
set with the FAA, or?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're fine.
Thank you, guys.
I didn't know if you just wanted to sit here and,
No.
no, okay.
No, Mike.
You want to do the ABC descriptions?
Oh, nice seeing all of you. We'll see you all
Guys,
again
good
in a
work.
few
We'll
weeks.
see you in a couple of weeks. Did you call on me?
Yeah, board member comments, Mr.
Yeah, just a
Marcy.
couple things. One was, was able to march in the Little League Parade this past Saturday. The rain held, and it was a good day. I have to say that the Little League team has done a great job. There's more people on the board, and more people volunteering, and more little kids than I've seen in a long time. So I can't tell you how happy I was to see that. The fields look great. There's more sponsor posters than I've seen, and it just, what a great day. So congratulations to them. And the second thing was, I wanted to say was, I know this was gonna be our last meeting in this room for Greg, but I'll save all my mushy comments for later, but it'd be weird not having you in that seat. So,
Yeah, yeah, it is. Mr. Joseph.
See you, Greg.
See that, Paul?
I'm done.
Mr. Bose, I should have taken you first. This is my first,
not even on the list? Oh.
first time as chair.
All right, so just some comments on the past events that we've had. Last week was our health and wellness week for the school, so they had a few activities about how to be more healthy and wellness. So they did like yoga, rock climbing, pet therapy. They had a
Oh, wait a minute. Pet therapy?
pet therapy.
Like what kind of
Did not
pets?
take that
Chickens
course.
or
Not chickens.
chickens?
Oh,
Dogs,
okay.
cats?
Okay.
All right,
Dogs.
all right, dogs.
A service dog came in, and then they had like some first aid classes, but that went successfully. And since our last meeting, the trip, from everyone that I have talked to, they said the trip was great. They went to Spain, France, and Morocco.
That's over there too, yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Italy. So they all said that they had a great time. And then the district art show was this past Friday. The marching band participated in the Little League Parade. AP exams started today, and they go until next Friday. And all sports at Shepherd Hill are doing great, especially girls lacrosse, who I think has only lost one game. I think they're like 8-1.
Yep.
So they're
Yeah,
doing great.
you're right,
this year.
yeah.
They're 10-1 as of tonight, and they
they
qualified for districts.
Yep. Great for
I
them.
got the same text.
Yes.
And then, so we got some upcoming things. Prom is the 18th, and graduation is June 2nd.
Thank you.
June 2nd?
June 2nd.
You gotta wait that long?
I guess so.
Did you even show up anymore, or is it?
So, are you telling us that there's no more show choir events
There is no
that
more-
we can get tickets to and go listen and relax?
There is no. What?
You know, we got short shrifted this year.
Sorry.
Okay. Just so you know.
What I had, Mr. Marcy beat me to the punch. The Little League Parade. That was a wonderful event. It was good to see a group of younger people, as he said, playing. It was nice. It was a well-planned event, and I wanted to thank them for the Dudley baseball hat. I haven't worn
Yes,
one of
and-
those in over 30 years.
Baseball hat.
It still fits. They do?
I wasn't gonna say.
Pot calling.
Yeah,
Thank you. Departmental communication, Chief? Chief?
I just wanted to give a quick station update. I haven't done it in a few meetings. We're scheduled to move the trucks over into the new section starting the middle of next week. Wow. They're supposed to be paving and doing the curb cutting either Wednesday or by the end of this week. And then they're supposed to start renovating the existing building within the next couple of weeks, with still on an expected project completion date at the end of August.
Completely done?
That's what they're saying.
No, it's looking good.
Yeah, it does. Dormers and all.
They're not real.
Thank you, Chief. Vinnie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that we started sweeping streets. I'm getting a lot of calls of when people want to know when the street sweep is going to be in their neighborhood, and it's kind of impossible to get that information out because the machine keeps breaking and we keep patching it, and the weather has a lot to do with it. So I just wanted to say that be patient. When you see the sweeper come into the neighborhood, it'll stay in the neighborhood till that neighborhood's done, and then we'll carry on until the other one. But there's no way I can give a date that the sweeper is going to be on a certain street. So avoid calling. That's it.
I think people want to know when so they can put their leaves and sticks
Yeah, I
out
know.
there, right? I'm kidding. People shouldn't do that.
Yeah, if
People
we had a
shouldn't do that.
reliable sweeper, I could probably.
No, I saw the plug for the new one. I like what you did there, Vin.
Okay. Mr. Petrinus?
Real quickly, we're
Friends
doing our
like
hydrant
these.
flushing program. It's a couple weeks into it, probably a couple more weeks into it. See any water running, don't panic, check for a hydrant first. There's a lot of water runoff going on in the streets because of all the rain. So we've been getting calls about breaks, but a lot of them are starting to recede now till the next batch of rain.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Rich?
Oh, God.
Sure was nice to have a sunny day today, though.
Uh-oh.
It's always good to hear that. No, I caught a late email today. Ty and Bond were the engineers to do the water and the sewer projects. George and I had a conference call with them a few weeks ago, and they're looking here for a face-to-face. Water and sewer have a lot to do. These are the engineers who are gonna make it happen. The reason I'm in on it is I'd like to bundle as much as we can, take advantage of some better interest rates. There's a couple of state programs. So the idea is what they do, we package it nicely, we get more attractive rates, 0%, 2%. I caught an email somewhere that said that there's infrastructure grants available as well. So, things are looking good.
Yeah, if you look at those interviews we did last week regarding the TA position, one of the candidates talked specifically about grants that were available for that kind of work. So hopefully,
That's
give us
smart.
some interesting information or correct information, I don't know.
As I said before, we are looking at the possibility of the new water source at Station 1. Now, if that comes to fruition, that would be under this type of umbrella, because we don't know what the cost of that will be, because it's corrosion control, but there could be a total revamp of the station. We just don't know yet. I don't even know if it's going to be viable yet till sometime this summer. Then we're looking at our tanks. They've been pushed off because of the impending water issue. DEP's allowed me to move those off a few years. That's another part of the thing, and then the main brunt will be the replacement of some AC pipe on Mason Road and laterals going up out from there. That's going to be an ongoing issue. That's
Short list, just
yeah, just short list.
A couple months will be fine. Thank you very much. Mr. Marcy?
I had one more thing I wanted to add. I just wanted to say it was really good to see former Superintendent Louis Grib come to the meeting, so I just wanted to recognize him.
good
Good to see you,
yeah.
Louis.
I don't want to call you out. I didn't know if you were hiding.
Come on
You
up
were
and say
behind.
hi to everybody and.
Louis, he's not asking you to speak. He's not asking you to speak. He's acknowledging that you're here.
You can come up.
Well, I'd like to say one thing. I actually came to listen to the information on the DPW article. So,
Well, we've had 3 public hearings on it. I would suggest that, to get a head start, Louis, you get a copy of the warrant article from our office, and that'll list all of the sections of the proposed DPW proposal. All right?
I believe I'm the only person still alive. When the enterprise system was created, and that was done under a federal court order. That was with Town of Webster, Town of Dudley, and Deary Brothers at the time. The federal court order was of 2 parts. One was the loadings we could put in the river. The second part was specifically for the town to create an enterprise system so that sewer funds were not mixed with town funds.
Are you aware that the proposal maintains the separate use of both enterprise funds for the purpose for which they were established?
But I think, being that it's coming under the auspices of the Selectmen, the way I looked for that particular section of the court decree for over 2 years in the town records, and I could not find it. And I had contacted the federal court, and at that time, it was $100 fee to go, and then somebody would have to, from there, records people would have to go search for it to try to find it. But anyway.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, I said.
It's not going to change.
Okay.
No matter who is calling what, no matter who has what authority. It's not changing. The enterprise funds will not be touched, will not be commingled, and will remain as they were originally purposed.
I hope so, because other towns have seen fit to take enterprise funds from sewer departments or water departments to buy trucks for the highway department, saying that they...
That's not how it's done here in
So-
Dudley, you know that.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying. I trust this board. I don't know what the boards in the future will do, so, you know.
Keep
so.
electing us and you can be safe.
But that's what that decree was all about. At the time before that, the sewer department was partially funded by tax funds. So at that time, they were created so that the sewer department was totally funded by users' fees.
Huh.
So,
It'll be safe.
okay, so just to let you know.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Louis.
Thank you.
But get out of here. We got a couple of exec things we have to do here.
And I missed the parade, and it goes right by my
I know,
house.
I know.
Well, I was at a softball tournament.
Usually you're
so-
outside, I know.
I was at a
Always
softball tournament, so,
yeah.
thank you.
See
Okay.
you, Louis.
The-
Paul, you wanna
Next
lead
up
us?
is, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive with the proper wording. Mr. Joseph?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that we convene into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 21A3 and Section 21A2, and not to reconvene in public again tonight.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call
John
vote.
Marcy, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Gary Sigenovich, aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Good night,
guys.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.